Yo, what is up? This is the 268 version 5. It's been in the news recently. It has been buffed for some reason, and there is some speculation that this tank will be introduced into the live server sometime soon. Now, this is a tier 10 tank, and it is not a heavy tank. It is a tank destroyer. Much like the SP-144, this looks like a tank but is designated as a tank destroyer. So today we are going to look at the stats and we are going to look at what has been buffed with this tank. The reason why it's made the news is because it's buffed from 1900 hit points to 2000 hit points. This thing has 750 horsepower with a weight of 50 tons, maximum load of 55 tons, power to weight ratio of 15 horsepower per ton. So the indication is that it is kind of slow, kind of like what you'd expect from a tank destroyer, and the power to weight ratio is similar to that of the 114 SP2, but for all intents and purposes, the stats of this tank is going to be slightly underperforming compared to the 114 SP2. Now this 268 version 5, it is the same designation as the 268 version 4, which is the fixed turreted tank destroyer on the tech tree, but this is called the 268 version 5, which means I suppose it has a movable turret and looks more like a regular tank. That is the that is what I am guessing, but because it is similar to the SP2114, I'm thinking that this could be the ranked battle reward tank. That is, the next ranked battle reward. Maybe this will be just like the 114 SP2, a reward tank for the ranked battle. So that is what I think. But this tank compared to the SP2, this tank has much better penetration. Standard shell penetration on the SP2 is 273. This one is 303 penetration. So that is I would say a big difference compared to the SP2. SP2 standard penetration 273, SP2 premium shells APCR penetration 329. So this is 303 standard shells, and the premium shells are going to be heat shells with 395 penetration. This also does 750 hit points. Sorry, not 750 hit points, but 750 damage. That is 100 more damage than the SP2, but the reload time on this tank is pretty dismal, 17.64. It was slated to be 18.79, but they buffed it a couple of days ago, and it is now supposed to be 17.64. It is still 4 seconds slower than the 114 SP2. So in terms of penetration and firepower, a lot better than the SP2, but everything else is more or less worse. The reload time is much worse, the rate of fire is much worse, the shell velocity as well. Standard shell, even though it has 303 penetration, it is 760 meters per second shell velocity, which is really terrible, to be honest with you. It is not much quicker than how an artillery shell would fly. So if that is any kind of indication. And now the premium shell on this thing is actually heat. And even though it is heat shells, and it has really high penetration, 395 penetration, it's pretty amazing. The 114 SP2 only has 329 penetration. So this tank almost can penetrate anything, because standard shells 303 penetration, premium heat shells 395 penetration, it can pen anything. But again, you have that 760 meters per second shell velocity, which is pretty dismal. I'll be honest with you, that is not what you want from shell velocity. The 114 SP2 fires APCR with 1250 meters per second of shell velocity. So even though you have a really high penetration and high alpha gun, it has really slow shell velocity, and the reload time is about 4 seconds slower than a 114 SP2. So that is the issue with this thing. Everything else is also worse than this 114 SP2. The aim time 2.88 seconds, while the SP2 is like 1.92 seconds. The dispersions on this tank is 0.35. The moving dispersion, that is the dispersion is 0.35, while the 114 is 0.31. It is just all round worse gun handling, but higher alpha and higher penetration. Also, it has because it looks like it does look like a heavy tank, right? It looks like a T10 with a 277 turret. It does have significant armor that is going to work a lot better than the 114 SP2. 114 SP2 has terrible armor profile. This has 120 frontal hull armor, 90 on the side, while the 114 was only 75 frontally, 75 on the side. Turret armor, this is 230 frontally, and it's also sloped like a 277, so I think it works something like a 277. The 114 only has 135 frontal armor, so pretty significant difference in terms of armor, in terms of alpha damage and high penetration on this gun, but everything else is just worse than a 114 SP2. Now, the 114 SP2 is by no means a good tank to begin with, right? It is huge, it is slow, the gun is pretty okay, but it is not that of a great gun. I don't know what is the reasoning behind the 268 version 5 being spec'd this way, being a, yeah, kind of like, I don't know, it's not a heavy tank, it's not really a tank destroyer. I don't really know how it's going to fit into the current play style that we are kind of used to right now, right? We know how a traditional tank destroyer plays. We know how a traditional heavy tank plays. We know how medium tanks work. But this is something like in between a heavy tank and a tank destroyer, kind of like a hybrid in between both of them. You don't really play it like a heavy tank, but you don't really play it like a tank destroyer either. So I am curious to how this tank is going to perform in the current meta of World of Tanks. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. I do believe this is going to be, it's possible that this is going to be some kind of a ranked reward tank. We're not really entirely sure yet exactly what's going to happen, but because the 114 SP2 was the ranked reward tank, we are just going to speculate that this could be what the tank end up being, which is a ranked reward tank. We know ranked is coming up soon, sometime soon, and this is being buffed all of a sudden in the middle of a 1.15 release. So my suggestion is this could be the ranked reward tank. But what do you think? Let me know. And yeah, that's all the news I have for you, and let's see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.